The story begins in the year 2167, when demons attack humanity's final stronghold. Their overwhelming power and endless numbers drive humanity to extinction. At that moment, the last surviving human warrior, Si-chun, is on the verge of being killed by the demon king Lanyu. 7 years earlier, multiple demon kings suddenly descended upon the world and led demonic armies that destroyed human civilization with terrifying force. Now, Lanyu attempts to absorb Chen's mana to increase his own strength. As the demon king absorbs his power, Chen's mind fills with rage and grief as he remembers his late sister, his comrades, and his master, all of whom were killed by monsters. Determined not to let their deaths be meaningless, Chen decides to take the demon king down with him. He unleashes the ultimate SSS skill, Terminus Light, engulfing both the demon kings and countless lesser demons in a massive explosion of power. Before losing consciousness, Chen apologizes to his loved ones for not being strong enough to protect them. He desperately wishes he could return to the past before the monster dungeon was discovered or stop the first demon king from ever appearing. He believes he has died, but the next moment, he opens his eyes and finds himself lying in a bed with a much younger body. Confused, Chen looks out the window and is shocked to see a peaceful world filled with ordinary people even though humanity was supposed to be destroyed. After some time, he realizes the impossible has happened. He has returned to his university days, 10 years in the past. As Chen stares into the mirror, a mysterious floating screen suddenly appears before him, displaying a completed fusion skill called Power of Gluttony. He realizes he is now in the year 2157, exactly 10 years before humanity's extinction. In 3 years, the first demon king, Wraith, will appear and open the gates of hell, allowing the remaining demon kings to invade the human world one after another. That event marked the beginning of humanity's downfall and the moment Chun lost everything. However, this time things are different. He has been given another chance, and now his goal is clear. He must defeat Wraith before the gates of hell are opened. Chen finally focuses on the floating screen that has remained before him since waking up. When he touches it, a status panel appears and displays his statistics. The strange thing is that this is the first time Chun has ever seen such a system. In his previous life, he relied solely on his awakened abilities during battle. In this world, only 1 out of every 10,000 people can awaken powers. The university Chun attends only accepts students with the potential to awaken abilities and is known as the National University for Awakened Powers. Unfortunately, Chun awakened his abilities only after graduation, which placed him at the bottom of the school hierarchy and made him a frequent target of bullying. That also explains why he woke up in the hospital. As Chun studies the panel further, he notices his previous class title, Lightning Assassin, and realizes he can already feel power flowing through his body. This makes him suspect that he may have awakened his abilities much earlier this time. Just as he prepares to test his powers, his friend Ma Long arrives to check on him. Long appears worried and keeps questioning him because Chen suddenly seems far stronger than before. Chen quickly realizes that nobody else can see the mysterious screen. Ma Long is Chen's roommate, and, despite being awakened, he is also treated as one of the weakest students at school. In Chen's previous life, Long died on the 3rd day of the Demon King invasion. Seeing him alive again finally makes Chun accept that he truly has returned to the past. After checking on Chen's condition, Long escorts him out of the infirmary and reminds him about the ranking test scheduled for the next day. As they walk around the track field, Chen quietly observes the students around him while Long nervously avoids attention. Chen knows that if he changes nothing, the same tragic future will happen again. He must become stronger as quickly as possible. In this era, awakened individuals can only rank up by hunting monsters, but nearly every dungeon is controlled by major guilds. Since Chun does not belong to any guild, entering a dungeon will not be easy. He also wonders how his current abilities compare to other awakened individuals and monsters. The government ranking system ranges from E rank to A rank, followed by the rare S rank. Most students remain at E rank throughout their time at the academy, while only exceptionally talented students or those backed by powerful guilds manage to reach D rank. Based on his previous life experience, Chen can roughly estimate his current level, though he still does not know what official rank he would receive if evaluated. One thing is certain, however. He is already stronger than Long. Suddenly, a football strikes Long in the face, knocking him to the ground and breaking his glasses. The one responsible is the same student who bullied them before and previously sent them both to the infirmary. Long immediately becomes frightened, but Chin remains calm. The bully arrogantly orders them to buy drinks for him because he is busy playing basketball. Long quickly apologizes and starts to obey, but Chin stops him and says that Long did nothing wrong. Instead, the bully should be the one apologizing. Seeing the bully again causes painful memories from Chin's past to resurface. There was a time when the bully forced Chin underwater and refused to let him up. Long tried to stop them while being bullied himself, but the group had no intention of backing down. They mocked Chun by claiming they were only helping him awaken his powers through training. After struggling to breathe for too long, Chin eventually lost consciousness, causing the bullies to finally leave. Long quickly rushed over to check on him. Exhausted and emotionally drained from his miserable life, Chin asked why they would never leave them alone. At the time, Chin did not yet understand that cruelty existed not only among demons, but also within humanity itself. Hearing Chin speak back to them only encourages the bullies to continue harassing him. This time, however, Chin refuses to stay silent and finally talks back. His response immediately angers them, and they begin using their awakened abilities as they move toward him aggressively. The leader of the group is Gong Chong, someone who only targets weaker students because his older brother is the powerful student council president. Despite his confidence, Cheng's own abilities are far from exceptional. As Chung approaches Chun, the surrounding students begin laughing and whispering among themselves, fully expecting Chun to be beaten once again. They continue mocking both Chun and Long without hesitation. Chung steps directly in front of Chun and demands that he repeat what he said. Without showing even the slightest fear, Chun calmly tells him to stop bothering them. Furious, Chung immediately activates his awakened powers and attacks, but before the strike can even land, Chun effortlessly counters him with a single punch. The force of the blow sends Chung stumbling backward as he struggles to regain his balance. Every student watching is left stunned, unable to understand what just happened. Chung becomes even angrier and asks if Chun is trying to challenge him. In response, Chun activates his electric assassin skill to test its strength. Long is completely shocked and asks when Chun awakened his powers. Chung then uses his strongest ability and charges forward once more, but Chun instantly closes the distance and lands another punch directly to Cheng's face, sending him flying across the area. The students are even more shocked than before, and Long can hardly believe what he is seeing. Everyone begins wondering whether the person standing before them is truly the same weak Chun they once knew. Meanwhile, despite being completely overwhelmed, Chung still refuses to back down and calls for help from his friends. However, after sensing Chin's intimidating aura, none of them dare to move. Chung attempts one final attack, but Chin easily catches his punch and strikes him again while calmly stating that Chung is too weak. The impact sends Chung crashing into a wall. Once everything settles down, Long can only stare in disbelief at how powerful Chun has become. Chin quickly reaches two conclusions. First, he can freely enter the electric assassin state whenever he wants. Second, even though his system level is currently only level 1, his natural strength is already enough to overpower low-level awakened individuals. This confirms that his current abilities are above E rank, though his exact rank remains unknown. However, Chin soon notices another problem. Even after defeating Chung, his stats have not increased at all. Realizing this, Chin summons lightning around his hand and slowly walks toward Chung, wondering if gaining experience still works the same way it did in his previous life. The very next moment, the vice president of the student council, Ling Yu, steps in and stops Chun, saying that Chung has already received enough punishment. She also assures him that Chung will never bother him again. Hearing this, Chun finally calms down, realizing how eager the student council is to protect Chung. However, from the beginning, Chun never intended to seriously harm him. He simply understood that unless people like Chung were completely intimidated, they would continue harassing others forever. After displaying his strength, Chun walks away while Cheng's followers stare at him in fear, promising never to target him again. Chun then leaves the training ground with Long, while Yu also departs shortly afterward. Later that night, Long returns to the dormitory and excitedly tells his roommates about how powerful Chun has become after awakening the incredibly strong lightning assassin ability. However, one of the roommates, Xiangzhou, refuses to believe the story at all. He argues that if Chun were truly that strong, he would never have been bullied in the first place. Another roommate, Xiangyu, jokes that Long must still be dizzy from getting hit earlier. Zhou continues boasting about himself, explaining that the four of them were placed in the same dorm because they ranked at the very bottom of the entire year. Since Zhou is ranked fourth from the bottom, he proudly calls himself the strongest person in the dormitory and the only combat class student among them, a nucleus mage. He keeps bragging about his abilities until Xiangyu reminds everyone that the truth will be revealed tomorrow during the final ranking test before graduation evaluation. The scene then shifts to an E-rank training demon lair where the student council president, Gong Ting, exits the dungeon alongside Ling Yu after finishing their training session. There, they find Chung waiting for them while demanding that Ting take revenge for the humiliation he suffered earlier. After listening to him, Ting agrees to handle the situation personally. Later, Ting and Yu go out for dinner, where Yu asks how he plans to deal with Chun. Ting calmly replies that Chung was simply weaker than his opponent. This makes him question whether Chun is truly as strong as Chung claimed. Yu explains that only 10 students in the entire academy have reached D rank, and Ting has already recruited all of them into his organization. On top of that, ordinary students have no access to demon lairs like Ting does. Because of this, Yu believes there is no way for average awakened individuals to improve quickly enough to catch up with Ting's group. Meanwhile, Chin spends his night running 20 kilometers while carrying 100 kilograms of extra weight to improve his physical condition. For awakened individuals, physical strength directly determines their maximum potential. Only a strong body can properly withstand and release high-level powers. Even so, Chun knows this level of training is still far from enough. In just 3 years, the Demon King Wraith will descend upon the world and bring devastating destruction to humanity. During that tragedy, Chin's sister also lost her life. Wraith was the one responsible for beginning humanity's destruction, which is why Chin's first goal is clear. He must kill Wraith before everything falls apart again. With only 3 years remaining, Chin understands he must grow stronger faster than ever before. While training, Chin suddenly receives a phone call from his sister, Si-yun. The moment he sees her name, he immediately answers. Yun happily tells him about her progress in an upcoming competition that could finally help solve their financial problems. Hearing her voice again overwhelms Chun with emotion. In his previous life, he prayed countless times for the chance to start over, even if it meant sacrificing everything he had. Now that wish has finally come true, and he cannot hold back his tears after hearing his sister's voice again after so many years. However, Yun becomes confused because, from her perspective, they had only spoken 2 days earlier. Before ending the call, she tells him they will meet once her competition is over. At that moment, Chin fully realizes that his life has truly restarted. The thought fills him with even greater determination, causing him to run 3 more laps as he pushes himself to become stronger as quickly as possible to protect everything precious to him. After completing his training, Chin returns to the dormitory and finds all his roommates already asleep. It has only been 8 hours since he returned to this era, yet he can already feel himself slowly adapting to his younger body. Even so, his physical condition is still far weaker than he wants it to be. After taking a shower, Chun lies down on his bed and begins thinking about the most important issue ahead of him, leveling up. The only way to level up is by entering demon lairs, but those locations are completely controlled by powerful guilds. Aside from wealthy and influential people, ordinary individuals rarely get the chance to grow stronger. While thinking about how to encounter monsters again and uncover the secrets behind the power of gluttony, Chin slowly falls asleep. Suddenly, he awakens in a strange space where he is falling from the sky. Despite the terrifying drop, he lands safely and immediately begins wondering where exactly he has ended up. After arriving in the mysterious space, Chin finds himself standing before a massive and unsettling tower while trying to understand where he is. Moments later, several E-rank monsters known as Death Hounds suddenly appear, forcing Chin to switch to his Lightning Assassin class and prepare for battle. He has no idea whether this place is some kind of demon lair, but at the moment, surviving comes first. The monsters immediately charge toward him, but with Chin's current strength, defeating E-rank creatures is surprisingly easy. Everything feels far too real to be a dream. After defeating the monsters, Chin notices that his level has increased to level 2, confirming that he can gain experience and level up within this strange place. He also discovers that all of his stats have increased by 5 points. At that moment, Chin realizes he has somehow gained access to a personal demon lair that he can clear alone. Because of this, he decides to use the area to properly test the limits of his new abilities. After defeating the final boss of the area, Chin levels up once again and receives experience rewards far greater than those from ordinary monsters. In a very short amount of time, he has already leveled up twice and obtained valuable loot, including 18 Death Forest Fangs and 1 Death Forest Crystal. As soon as the boss is defeated, a notification suddenly appears, stating that the monster is devourable. Curious, Chin reaches out his hand, causing a strange light to emerge and absorb the defeated creature. In that instant, Chin finally understands the true nature of the power of Gluttony skill. The monster is transformed into a card after being absorbed, making Chin realize that he can devour defeated enemies and turn them into usable classes for himself. He quickly recognizes this power because it is identical to the ability once possessed by the Demon King Lanyu. The power of Gluttony originally belonged to the Demon King, but now Chin has inherited it for himself. Normally, every awakened individual is limited to a single class with fixed strengths and weaknesses. It is considered an absolute rule of the world. However, Chin now possesses 2 classes at the same time. Even more terrifying is the possibility that if he continues devouring monsters, he may gain access to countless classes without limit. Still, one major question remains unanswered. How did he obtain such a terrifying ability? And what exactly is the mysterious tower standing behind him? While Chin is lost in thought, he suddenly feels an overwhelming pressure descend upon him, instantly putting him on guard. The next moment, a powerful figure appears on the staircase of the tower and calmly claims that he has been waiting for Chin for a very long time. The scene then shifts to Chin battling this mysterious being. In his previous life, Chin nearly died countless times just to reach S rank, yet right now his combat power is only around D rank. The enemy standing before him, however, is an S rank boss monster. The difference in strength is overwhelming, and Chin's stats are completely outmatched. As the battle continues, Chin's mind fills with questions about the tower, the monster, and how this being even knows his name. They exchange dozens of attacks, but during the fight, Chin notices something strange. The monster has had countless opportunities to finish him, yet every attack deliberately avoids fatal damage. It becomes clear that the monster is intentionally overpowering him without truly trying to kill him. Chin begins to suspect that the creature wants him to submit. Eventually, the monster finally speaks and suggests that Chin remain there and guard the demonic tower alongside him. Chin immediately refuses, declaring that he will never stay trapped in such a place. Hearing this answer, the monster attacks without even moving from its position and reveals that the only reason Chin is still alive is because he is the only person capable of reaching this tower. The monster then absorbs the remains of the defeated boss monster and releases an overwhelming aura powerful enough to send massive stones flying through the air. It gives Chin one final choice: stay and serve the tower, or be completely crushed. In response, Chin activates his Lightning Assassin class and boldly declares that he will defeat the monster instead. He instantly closes the distance between them because, during their earlier exchanges, he noticed a weakness in the monster's movements. Before every strike, the creature has a brief 40-millisecond delay. Chin uses that tiny opening to observe the angle of the monster's wrist, predict the attack path, and dodge the blade. After each strike, the monster also experiences a short recovery delay, giving Chin a narrow opportunity to counterattack while the enemy is vulnerable. However, despite successfully landing attacks, Chin understands that his current D-rank strength is nowhere near enough to defeat an S-rank opponent. After temporarily paralyzing the monster for a few moments, Chen immediately creates distance and attempts to escape the tower. During the battle, he noticed a mysterious light source and believed it might be an exit, so he rushes toward it without hesitation. However, the light suddenly disappears the moment he arrives. An instant later, the monster appears once again and reveals that the light was merely an illusion designed to make Chun believe he was trapped inside a demon lair when he actually was not. Even so, the monster openly praises Chun for identifying flaws in its attacks so quickly during combat. The creature then reveals its true form and compliments Chin's calm judgment, courage, and ability to risk his life in search of even the smallest chance of survival. The moment Chin sees the monster's true appearance, he instantly recognizes it. The creature possesses one of the forms once used by the Demon King Lan Yu himself. The monster continues praising Chin's sharp instincts and determination, claiming that he may truly be the one capable of bringing hope to the world. During the final battle of Chin's previous life, he witnessed the Demon King Lan Yu effortlessly switching between several powerful high-rank classes. Among those many forms was one that looked exactly like the monster standing before him now. This realization makes Chun consider the possibility that the creature was once devoured by Lan Yu's power of gluttony. Since that same power is now integrated into Chin's body, he suddenly says out loud that this entire place must actually exist within him. Hearing this, the monster praises Chun, saying that not only is his mental strength impressive, but his mind is also incredibly sharp. With that realization, the monster confirms that Chun is worthy of inheriting everything hidden within this place. The creature then summons a mysterious key capable of opening the demonic tower and hands it over to Chun. It explains that Lan Yu once devoured countless terrifying demons, sealing the strongest among them inside the tower. The monster wants Chun to devour them all and grow stronger through their power. After receiving the key of the void, Chun asks why the monster is helping him. In response, the creature reveals that the Demon Kings destroyed its entire race simply to satisfy their greed. Since then, it has waited endlessly for an opportunity to take revenge, and now it believes that opportunity finally stands before it. The monster also mentions that someone once claimed Chun would become the world's only hope. Curious, Chun asks who that person was, but the monster refuses to reveal any details, stating that every answer lies hidden inside the tower itself. According to the creature, Chun will uncover the truth only by entering the tower and surviving its trials. Afterward, the monster asks Chun to devour him and inherit his power so the Demon Kings can one day face justice. The creature declares that Chun must become an unstoppable awakener capable of consuming every powerful being sealed inside the tower. However, it also warns him that the monsters within are incredibly dangerous, cunning, and ruthless beyond imagination. The monster advises Chun to endure every hardship, conquer every challenge, and continue climbing until he stands at the very peak of the world. Only then will he possess the strength needed to devour every Demon King. Trusting Chin's determination, the monster willingly allows itself to be devoured, claiming that only someone with such unwavering resolve deserves its power. As the process is completed, Chin immediately rises to level 10 and receives the monster's weapon, Rakshas's Underworld Bone. He also obtains the Rakshasa card and vows to carry the monster's will with him until every Demon King is defeated. Moments later, Chin suddenly opens his eyes after hearing the loud noises of his roommates preparing for the assessment test. He quickly realizes he has returned to the dormitory, and even the wounds from the battle are completely gone. At first, he wonders whether everything was simply a dream, but after checking the system interface and discovering that all the items and rewards remain with him, he understands that the experience was completely real. In just a single night, Chen has already reached level 10, making him wonder what rank he would now be classified as. As soon as Chen wakes up, Ko immediately approaches him and starts asking whether the stories Long shared the previous night were actually true. Still doubtful, Ko decides that the upcoming rank test will reveal everything. While heading toward the testing grounds, Ko proudly brags about being a mid-E rank awakener while mocking the others as weak failures. He confidently talks about climbing even higher in rank in the future. The others stay silent and continue following him. Along the way, Long quietly whispers to Chun, encouraging him to give it his all during the test, reach D rank, and finally show everyone his true talent. After walking for some time, the group eventually arrives at the testing area, which is already crowded with students. There, Ko notices Cheng's followers approaching and immediately becomes nervous. However, the moment they see Chen standing there, they instantly become frightened and respectfully greet him instead. This reaction completely shocks Ko, who cannot understand why they are suddenly treating Chen with so much respect. Ignoring them entirely, Chen continues walking until he is suddenly stopped by Jiang Jian, a student council officer. Jian deliberately provokes Chen for daring to lay a hand on President Ting's younger brother. The moment Long, Ko, and you recognize Jian, they immediately back away in fear, confused about why someone like him would personally target Chen. Jian then smugly claims that he possesses a sharp instinct for identifying true strength and says he can sense the aura of powerful awakeners from far away. However, according to Jian, the only thing he senses from Chun is the presence of someone destined to remain weak forever. Hearing Jian's arrogant remarks, Chen calmly mocks him by asking whether he is some kind of guard dog. The comment instantly angers Jian, and he prepares to confront Chen right there. However, Gong Ting suddenly stops him and reveals that he already investigated the incident and confirmed that Cheng was the one at fault. Because of that, Ting has no intention of punishing Chun, stating that people must accept the consequences of their own actions. Chun and Ting silently stare at each other for a moment before the teacher announces the start of the grading test and instructs students to step forward when their names are called. Ting then turns around and leaves with Jian to prepare for the exam, while privately concluding that Chun does not appear to be much of a threat. The scene then shifts to Ling Yu, who is observing the testing grounds from the school building alongside another staff member who asks why she suddenly became interested in watching the exam. Yu simply replies that this year's test is going to be very interesting. About an hour later, it becomes Zhou's turn to enter the portal and demonstrate his abilities. The grading test is conducted individually inside a specially designed training demon lair. Within the lair exists a demon heart capable of absorbing energy. Each awakener must release their power in front of the demon heart, which then transfers the measured energy to external equipment through connected cables. Finally, the results are displayed on a large screen in the form of data. When Zhou's results appear, his rank is revealed to be mid-tier E rank. Besides determining current rank, the test also evaluates future growth potential, showing the highest level an awakener may eventually reach. Students with high potential often receive special attention and support from the government. Unfortunately for Zhou, his maximum potential is measured at only C rank. He exits the portal looking extremely disappointed. Long tries comforting him by pointing out that the rest of them are even weaker, but things only become more awkward when both Long and Yu receive the exact same rank and potential as Zhou. Frustrated, Zhou wonders whether nobody this year will manage to surpass D rank. However, he is immediately shocked when the very next student achieves low-tier D rank with the potential to eventually reach B rank. The result surprises everyone because it marks the first D rank student of the year. Sometime later, Jin enters the testing area and completes the exam as a low-tier D rank awakener with a rank potential. Long, Zhou, and you become even more discouraged because Jin already makes the 8th D rank student this year. Even the instructors are surprised by the unusually high number of D rank students. Although they are all still considered low tier, it is extremely rare for students without real combat experience to reach that level. One of the instructors comments that normally only 2 or 3 graduates each year manage to achieve D rank, meaning this year's graduation combat assessment is shaping up to be something special. Finally, it becomes Gong Ting's turn. Every student watches closely because he is the young master of the Imperial Guild. Rumors claim that Ting already reached D rank during testing 2 years ago. So far, the highest recorded result this year has only been low-tier D rank, while the highest rank ever achieved in the school's history is mid-tier D rank. Because of this, everyone is eager to see just how far Ting can go. The moment Ting enters the demon lair, the demon heart opens its eyes for the first time, immediately signaling that something extraordinary is happening. Even so, Ting intentionally holds back because he believes revealing his full power during the graduation combat assessment would create a much greater impact. Despite limiting himself, he remains confident that he will still become the strongest student in the school's history. Outside the demon lair, the professors are stunned when a yellow-colored potential reading suddenly appears on the assessment screen. The entire crowd erupts in shock after Ting's results are revealed as high-tier D rank with the potential to eventually reach S rank. Everyone celebrates the fact that their academy has finally produced a student with S rank potential. The instructors are overwhelmed with excitement, realizing they are witnessing a historic moment. One professor immediately decides to report the results to the principal. The moment Ting exits the portal, countless students gather around him, praising him and desperately trying to earn his favor. The scene then shifts back to Lingyu, who is now standing beside the university principal, Yuan Long. The principal praises this year's talented students and especially compliments Ting's incredible potential. However, Yu calmly corrects him and reveals that Ting is not the student she is most interested in. Instead, she admits that she is far more curious to see Chen's performance. As Chun walks past Jian mocks him by saying that Chun and his roommates will become the biggest joke in the entire university if Chun still ends up ranking at the bottom. He continues insulting all four of them, which immediately angers Long confidently tells Jian to wait and see how Chun is about to shock everyone. Without responding, Chun calmly enters the demon lair, while Zhou quietly wonders whether Chun can truly live up to everyone's expectations. The moment Chun steps inside, the demon heart suddenly reacts in surprise upon sensing his presence. In this era, joining a high-rank guild is considered the only path towards securing a successful future as an awakener. For most students, the graduation combat assessment is their only opportunity to prove themselves worthy of recruitment. During the assessment, students are allowed to form their own 10-member squads, and the team that claims first place earns direct recruitment into the nation's strongest organization, the Imperial Guild. Because of this, the grading test is not only meant to determine individual rank, but also to help students find powerful teammates for the upcoming graduation assessment. The scene then shifts to Jian returning to Gongting alongside the final member needed to complete their 10-person squad. In a competitive environment like this, the strongest teams naturally gather together while the weakest students are left behind. Strength attracts strength, while weakness is ignored and pushed aside. That harsh reality has become the unspoken rule of survival within the academy. Meanwhile, Long grows increasingly worried because Chun still has not exited the demon lair and his results have yet to appear. Many students begin losing interest and start leaving the testing grounds. Ting and his squad even decide to head out for a karaoke celebration. However, at that exact moment, the analysis board suddenly updates and displays Chin's result as high-tier D rank. The announcement instantly shocks every student present. Long immediately begins proudly boasting that he had been telling the truth all along. Inside the demon lair, the demon heart itself appears nervous while analyzing Chin's power, causing the system to request a retest. At the moment, Chen is only using his normal physical form without switching classes. His base level 10 stats alone are already equal to high-tier D rank. Curious about his limits, Chen switches to his currently weakest class and tests it as well. This time, the results jump even higher and update to mid-tier C rank. The students outside become even more stunned, and for the first time, even Gong Ting looks genuinely surprised. The professors begin worrying that the system may be malfunctioning because Chin's rank continues changing unexpectedly. After another evaluation, the system once again requests a retest while the demon heart appears even more unstable than before. Chin realizes that his remaining two classes are likely far above C rank, so he decides to activate the Purgatory Rakshasa class in order to measure the true extent of his strength. The moment he does, the atmosphere outside the demon lair suddenly becomes incredibly heavy, causing all the students nearby to feel shocked and uneasy. Moments later, the status board updates again and displays S rank potential for Chun. The professors are left speechless after witnessing the appearance of another student with S rank potential. Even Ting cannot hide his amazement at the result. However, before anyone can fully process what is happening, the system suddenly flashes an error and briefly displays SSS rank potential before completely overloading. Immediately afterward, a violent explosion erupts from inside the demon lair. The instructors panic and quickly rush inside to protect Chun. Once they enter, they discover that the demon heart has completely shut down. The professors assume it collapsed due to excessive strain from repeated testing throughout the day. A moment later, Chun calmly walks out of the demon lair and quietly notes to himself that he accidentally destroyed the demon heart. Even so, he also discovers something surprising. The power of gluttony can apparently devour even the core of a machine. After exiting, Chun activates the demon heart's class ability and secretly checks the true ranks of the students around him. During this, he notices that Gong Ting's real strength is actually mid-tier C rank, revealing that Ting had intentionally hidden part of his power during the test. Soon afterward, the professors return and announce that the demon heart unexpectedly failed due to excessive stress. Because of this incident, all remaining tests are suspended until the following day. They also declare Chin's results to be a system error that will need further investigation by higher authorities. The students who have not yet completed their exams are instructed to return tomorrow. Chin reunites with Long and the others, who are now treating him with far more respect and admiration than before. However, Jin approaches once again and mockingly insists that someone like Chun could never possibly possess C-rank strength or S-rank potential. According to him, the entire result was clearly just a system malfunction. Jin then blames Chun for damaging the demon heart and complains that his actions inconvenienced both the students and the student council by delaying the tests. Listening to the constant insults begins to irritate Chun, and he briefly considers putting Jin in his place again. Before the situation can escalate further, Gong Ting suddenly arrives and tells Jin not to disrespect their future teammate. Jin is left completely stunned by those words. Ting then walks directly toward Chun and personally invites him to join his guild so they can compete together in the graduation combat assessment. Long and Zhou are completely shocked after seeing Gong Ting personally invite Chun to join his team. On the other hand, Jin immediately becomes nervous because if Chun joins the squad, someone will have to be removed, which could easily put him in danger of losing his position. At the same time, Jin cannot hide his frustration over the fact that Chun is receiving a personal invitation from Ting, while many students fail to enter the team even after offering large benefits. Despite his anger, Jin forces a smile and pretends to welcome Chun into the group. However, Chun immediately removes Jin's hand from his shoulder and calmly states that he has no interest in joining their team at all. Both Jin and Ting are left stunned by the rejection. Jin quickly loses his temper and starts listing all the advantages of joining their squad, but Chun once again cuts him off and firmly says that their team has nothing to do with him. He then warns them not to bother him again in the future. After saying this, Chun leaves alongside Long, while Jin is left standing there with an expression full of anger and humiliation. The surrounding students are equally shocked because nobody expected someone to reject the student council president's personal invitation. Some students even begin speculating that Chun himself may now be aiming for first place in the graduation combat assessment after revealing such overwhelming talent. Regardless of the outcome, everyone suddenly becomes excited to see what will happen next. As Chun walks away, Long proudly taunts Ting while Zhou follows behind. Jin immediately prepares to react, but Ting calmly stops him and says that it is fine. The scene then shifts to the principal, who cannot hide his disappointment over Chun's decision. He admits that he was hoping Chun and Ting would join forces and create a new record in the school's history together. However, Lingyu believes the situation has become even more interesting this way. According to her, Ting has spent his entire life surrounded by privilege and success, so Chin's rejection feels like a direct challenge to his pride. Yu also comments on how difficult it would normally be for anyone to defeat Gong Ting. Jin then complains that Chun has become arrogant after benefiting from what he still believes was simply a testing error. In response, Ting calmly explains that he wanted Chun on his team because he does not want anyone threatening his position at the top. Jin confidently replies that Chun is still just a student without real combat experience. While Ting's group has already trained and fought together inside Demon Lairs multiple times in secret. Jian then suggests teaching Chen a lesson on Ting's behalf, but Ting immediately refuses the idea. This response makes Jian nervous, causing him to quickly apologize. Ignoring the matter, Ting announces that he will not be attending the karaoke gathering and tells Jian to handle everything himself. He also makes it clear that whatever Jian chooses to do has nothing to do with him. Jian instantly understands the hidden meaning behind Ting's words. Soon afterward, Jian learns that Chen is temporarily leaving the academy to return home, which makes him secretly happy because dealing with Chen outside the school grounds would be much easier. The scene then shifts to Chen walking through the city streets while reflecting on memories from his previous life. In the past, an elite guild team attempted to conquer a dangerous demon lair located within the territory of Saint He Country. During that mission, they encountered a terrifying demon unlike anything humanity had ever seen before. That demon was the Demon King Wraith. The entire guild team was annihilated, and after that battle, Wraith emerged from the demon lair and descended upon the human world, beginning humanity's destruction. That is all the information Chen currently knows about the incident. In this new life, Chen wants to quickly locate the exact demon lair where Wraith first appeared, so he begins preparing a plan. However, to carry out that plan, he first needs a large amount of money. Because of this, Chen visits the Mithril Monster Exchange, a trading center operated by the Mithril Guild that will eventually become the largest market exchange in the country. Weapons and equipment are essential to the strength of Awakeners, making monster exchanges one of the most important locations for buying and selling combat gear. For Chen, it is also the fastest way to earn money at the moment. He presents his monster loot to one of the workers, but the employee fails to recognize the items at all. Another employee quickly identifies the materials as E-grade Sanction Fangs and begins explaining their value. However, the first worker rudely interrupts her and boasts that he normally only evaluates D-rank items or higher, claiming it is natural for him not to recognize low-level materials. The worker then complains about his delayed promotion and blames his bad luck on constantly dealing with customers who bring in low-value items. Frustrated, he leaves Chun to the other employee, a girl named Li. Li politely handles the transaction and gives Chin $18,000, which is enough to temporarily solve his family's rent problem. Afterward, she asks if there is anything else she can help him with. In response, Chin summons Rakshasa's greatsword and asks her to evaluate it as well. The moment Li sees the massive weapon, she becomes stunned because she has never encountered a sword like it before. Based on its appearance alone, she estimates that it must be at least an A-grade weapon. Hearing this, the rude employee immediately rushes back in shock after noticing the sword. While both workers stare at the weapon in disbelief, another man suddenly approaches and calmly states that the sword is far beyond a grade. The newcomer turns out to be the owner of the shop himself. The male employee instantly begins flattering his boss, while insisting that someone like Chun could never possibly possess such a valuable item. However, the owner reveals that the weapon is actually S-grade, leaving both workers completely speechless. Without hesitation, the owner warmly grabs Chin's hand, welcomes him personally to the store, and escorts him to the VIP room. Chin had actually been waiting for this man to appear all along, and he already knows the owner's name, Qingji. After arriving in the VIP room, Li politely serves Chin a cup of tea while Qingji asks how much he wants for the weapon. Without hesitation, Chin states that he wants $1 million, instantly surprising Ji. Confused, Ji asks why Chun is only requesting $1 million for an S-grade weapon that could easily sell for tens of millions on the market. He even explains that such a rare weapon is valuable enough to cause chaos among buyers. Chen then reveals that he has no intention of selling the weapon permanently. Instead, he wants to use it as collateral for a $1 million loan that he promises to repay within 1 month. Hearing this, Ji becomes even more curious and begins wondering why a university student would suddenly need such a large amount of money. At the same time, he cannot help admiring Chen's intelligence and calm attitude. Ji starts considering whether Chen might secretly come from a wealthy background or perhaps be an exceptional prodigy, hiding his true abilities. Regardless of the truth, one thing becomes clear to him. Chen is definitely not an ordinary person. Chen further promises that he will repay the full amount within 1 month along with an additional 10% interest. After hearing this, Ji asks Li to leave the room so they can continue speaking privately. Ji then carefully pieces together the situation. He correctly guesses that Chun attends the National Awakener University and knows that the senior graduation examination will take place exactly 1 month later. He also knows that the first place reward for the competition is precisely $1 million. Putting everything together, Ji realizes that Chun fully expects himself to win first place in the upcoming examination. Seeing Chin's reaction confirms that his deductions are accurate. Ji concludes that Chin urgently needs money right now and cannot afford to wait until the competition ends. Because of this, Ji unexpectedly offers Chin a loan of $1.5 million with 0 interest for 1 month. He tells Chin to consider it the beginning of a friendship between them. On top of that, Ji promises to keep the entire agreement confidential. In return, he simply asks Chun to consider using the mithril exchange for future business whenever he needs to trade valuable items. Chun is genuinely impressed by how Ji managed to understand his situation from only a few small details. Even more impressive is the fact that Ji chose to help him rather than exploit his circumstances. Chun finally understands why Qing Ji will eventually turn the mithril exchange into the world's greatest trading center in the future. Chun knows that defeating the Demon King Wraith will require far more than personal strength alone. To succeed, he will eventually need trustworthy allies by his side. After reaching an agreement, Ji finalizes the magical contract and transfers the funds directly into Chen's account. Before Chen leaves, Ji points out that he no longer has a weapon for the graduation examination and offers to lend him one. However, Chen calmly replies that he still possesses another weapon similar to the one he used as collateral. His answer shocks not only Ji, but also Li and the male employee outside the room. Afterward, Chun leaves the exchange. Impressed by Li's professionalism and the way she handled such an important customer, Ji immediately promotes her to supervisor, leaving her overjoyed while the rude employee can only watch in regret. Just before leaving the area, Chun suddenly remembers that he forgot to buy something, so he briefly returns to make another purchase. Once finished, he takes a taxi to the bus terminal. In his previous life, Chen's family struggled financially for years. At that time, he had already graduated but still had not awakened his powers, meaning no guild was willing to recruit him. He worked countless temporary jobs, but barely earned enough money to cover rent. Both he and his sister were forced to live extremely modestly just to survive. Yin worried so much about burdening the family financially that she eventually gave up on attending her dream school. Now, Chen waits at the terminal for his sister, believing her bus should have already arrived. However, he cannot spot her anywhere. A moment later, Yin suddenly calls out to him and complains about his habit of waiting near the wrong side of the station whenever he picks her up. Seeing his sister alive again after 7 long years overwhelms Chun with emotion, and he immediately hugs her tightly. Yin quickly pushes him back and jokes that they have only been apart for a few days before teasing him by asking whether he was rejected by a girl. Chen immediately denies it while Yin casually hands him her backpack and tells him to hurry home. The two continue walking together while Chun quietly listens to her cheerful conversation. As he watches her smile, Chen silently promises himself that this time he will never allow her to suffer again. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Jian and his group, who have finally discovered the route Chen usually takes home. They secretly wait nearby, planning to ambush him the moment he appears. Jian remains furious over everything that happened and is determined to teach Chen a lesson for daring to disrespect Gong Ting. One of Jian's teammates quietly warns him that things could go too far if they target Chen so openly, especially with so many student council members involved. However, Jian only laughs and claims that he originally intended to teach Chen a simple lesson. Still, Chen's attitude has irritated him so much that he now wants to beat him badly enough to prevent him from participating in the graduation exam 2 weeks later. Jian's confidence comes from his class, which is considered one of the strongest cloud-type assassin abilities in the entire academy. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Chen walking home with his sister. Yun notices that her brother has been acting differently lately and worries that he may be stressed about the upcoming graduation assessment. She continues encouraging him and tells him to stay positive and keep pushing forward. After that, she brings up a song Chen used to sing when they were younger and even starts humming it herself. Chen understands why Yun is acting this way. From the moment they reunited, she sensed that something about him had changed. Since she still has no idea that he already awakened his powers, she likely believes he is simply struggling under financial pressure again. Wanting to ease her worries, Chen reassures her that he is doing fine. However, Yun assumes he is only hiding his stress out of pride and silently recalls things she once read about how men tend to suppress their emotions. The moment they enter a nearby alley, Jin and the other student council members finally spot Chen walking beside a young woman. Seeing this makes them excited because they believe they caught him at the perfect moment. Chen immediately notices them as well, causing anger to rise inside him. Even so, he stays calm and gently hands a pair of earbuds to Yun, telling her to listen to a song he has recently been replaying over and over again. Yun becomes surprised after hearing that Chun has started listening to music again and happily begins listening, hoping to understand her brother better. While Yun quietly walks forward with the music playing in her ears, Chun slowly turns around and walks directly toward Jian and the others as they rush toward him. In Chen's previous life, the year 2160 was the moment he lost the last member of his family. It was not until the year 2167 that he was reborn and given the chance to return to the past. After 7 painful years, he can finally stand beside his sister once again. Because of that, seeing these people attempt to ruin this precious moment fills him with fury. Chun immediately overwhelms the group and defeats the student council members one after another with ease. Jin watches in fear as every member of his group is quickly taken down, but he still believes his class ability gives him an advantage against Chun. Holding his weapon tightly, Jin charges forward and attacks. However, Chun defeats him with a single strike, instantly showing him the massive gap in strength between them. Even then, Chun does not stop. Jin crashes across the ground, but Chun immediately follows up with another powerful hit that sends him rolling again before slamming into a wall. Chun then slowly walks toward him and coldly reminds him that he already warned him never to bother him again. Yet Jin clearly failed to understand the message. Lien realizes that he is severely injured and can't move anymore. At that moment, he finally understands that Chin's assessment ranking was real. Overwhelmed and in pain, Lien tries to apologize, but Chin coldly tells him to shut up or he will kill him. Lien breaks down in fear, realizing that Chun is not bluffing at all. He cannot understand how a student like Chun could possess such overwhelming killing intent. Still, Chun warns them firmly, ordering them never to bother him again. He adds that if they ever target his sister or even appear in front of her again, he will eliminate them one by one without hesitation. Terrified, Lien quickly nods in agreement, unable to say anything further. Afterward, Chun walks back to his sister, who is still listening to music. However, the song now feels strangely lonely, and she begins to cry. She cannot stop thinking about Chun and how distant he has seemed over the past few days. She wonders why he feels so isolated even though she is by his side. She turns around to ask him, but before she can speak, Chun surprises her with a gift. She becomes extremely happy when she sees a magic holographic pen, something she had always wanted. Excited, she asks where Chun managed to get such an expensive item. Chun simply smiles at her reaction, quietly remembering how he failed to protect her dreams in his previous life. Even now, she hesitates and considers returning the gift, trying to convince herself that she does not need it that much. Watching this, Chun silently vows to protect everything about her from now on. Later, they return home, and Yun eagerly tries the pen, which can draw holographic images in the air. Chun feels relieved seeing her so genuinely happy. Although she clearly loves the gift, she still insists that Chun should not spend money so carelessly. In response, Chun tells her that he has already paid the full rent for the year. He then lies, saying he started a small business with a friend and earned some money. Yun immediately senses that he is hiding something, but she says nothing, simply relieved to see him smiling again after so long. She gently tells him not to overwork himself, and Chun agrees. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Gong Ting, who receives a report about the injuries of his student council members. The condition is so severe that even top medical treatment would not be able to fully heal Lien within a month. Ting is surprised to learn that Lien provoked Chun, although he is not shocked by the outcome. Lingyu, casually drinking coffee nearby, remarks that Lien will still have to participate in the graduation exam regardless. Ting responds that it does not matter, as his team will perform better without weak links. At that moment, Gong Xian, the director of career services at the National Awakener University, arrives and brings up Chen again. He confirms through internal records that Chun is indeed C rank, making him the only student ranked above Ting in the entire school. He also informs Ting that the chairman of the alliance will personally attend the upcoming graduation examination to evaluate the students. Because of this, Xian advises Ting to ensure that no one steals his spotlight. He then invites Ling Yu to fill the vacancy in Ting's team. However, Ting interrupts him, saying he is overthinking things. He asks whether Xian truly believes he used his full strength during the ranking assessment. Ting confidently states that on the day of the combat examination, he will make everyone recognize who the strongest truly is. The scene then shifts to Chun, who is taking a bath after completing his daily 100-kilometer weighted run. Now that his financial problems are temporarily resolved, everything is progressing according to plan. After graduation, he intends to begin executing his true strategy. His next goal is to secure the 1 million yuan prize at the graduation examination and repay his loan to Qing Ji. Chun understands that maintaining trust with Ji is important, as he will need his resources in the future. After finishing his bath, Chun lies down and reflects on how less than a month remains until the examination. He decides he must level up a few more times before then. As soon as he falls asleep, the gluttony system activates once again, and he finds himself inside the mysterious space. He walks toward the demonic tower, reviewing his current status. His weakest class, Gravehound King, is confirmed to be C rank, while the official rank of his strongest class, Abyssal Fiend, still cannot be displayed. Although Abyssal Fiend is confirmed to be S rank, Chun is still unable to fully access its power, and its exact limits remain unknown. The ranks of his remaining classes are also still unclear. Standing before the entrance, Chun summons the Time Rift Key and prepares to put his remaining abilities to the test once again. The next moment, Chun finds himself in a completely different space that resembles an unknown planet. Even the gravity feels abnormal, making every movement heavier than usual. The entrance he arrived through suddenly vanishes, meaning he may need to defeat the floor boss in order to unlock the exit again. In this environment, Chun can only unleash around 30% of his full strength, so he quickly understands that adapting to the terrain is critical. Almost immediately, a B rank monster known as a Phantom Lion appears. Assuming it is the floor boss, Chun swiftly switches to his Lightning Assassin class and prepares for combat. The monster launches an attack, but Chun manages to dodge it despite the overwhelming gravity. However, every movement feels sluggish, and even his strikes lose accuracy and speed under the pressure. Because of this disadvantage, Chun begins to struggle as the Phantom Lion easily adapts and presses its advantage. Realizing that his current class is not suitable for this environment, Chun switches to the Purgatory Rakshasa class instead. The moment the transformation completes, Chun's strength becomes significantly amplified due to gravity stacking effects. In this high-gravity environment, the force behind his attacks increases by nearly 60 times. With this sudden boost, Chun is finally able to overpower the Phantom Lion after a prolonged fight. He defeats the monster and obtains Phantom Lion Bone along with 12,000 experience points, allowing him to level up to level 11. Chun then learns that each star on a class card represents a stat multiplier, meaning more stars result in greater strength after class transformation. The Purgatory Rakshasa class has more stars than Lightning Assassin, indicating a higher overall amplification potential. However, even with this advantage, defeating just a B rank monster required all of his effort, confirming that neither of his current classes has fully surpassed the B rank threshold. At that moment, Chun notices something unusual. The system does not display a devourable mark after the monster's defeat, and the gate to the next floor still has not appeared. Suddenly, a new portal opens, and multiple B rank monsters emerge from it. Chun immediately realizes that the true floor boss has not appeared yet. The creature he just defeated was only a minor enemy. The incoming swarm of monsters overwhelms Chun, and for the first time, he fully understands the meaning behind the Purgatory Rakshasa's warning. It had told him that once the gates opened, endless suffering would follow, and he must endure and conquer it all. As the monsters attack relentlessly, Chin is overwhelmed and suddenly jolts awake in his dormitory, gasping in pain from the lingering sensations. He realizes there are no shortcuts to power. The path of the Purgatory Rakshasa has only just begun, and it is a lonely and brutal journey. On Friday, all students and teachers gather for the team formation ceremony. Gong Xian sits on the stage, calmly drinking water while observing the crowd. Teachers discuss rumors that higher authorities will personally observe this year's graduation assessment. Students complain about the new rules, as previous years had no strict requirements for team size or rank. This time, however, each team must consist of at least 5 members, with at least 1 member required to be E rank or higher. Gong Xian interrupts the discussion and instructs all students to check their wristbands and complete team formation immediately. As the lists are updated, the students are shocked to discover that Chun is listed as low-tier E rank. Many begin questioning the result, while others express disappointment, as they had hoped to join Chen's team if they could not enter Gong Ting's group. Now, whispers spread quickly through the crowd. Most students agree that no one will want to team up with Chun, especially with the graduation assessment approaching. Observing the reaction, Gong Ting silently looks toward his uncle, Gong Xian. Xian assumes that Ting is disappointed in Chen's ranking and believes this is another lesson meant to show him how power and human nature truly work, where those without value are naturally excluded from competition.